There was an old man from Blackheath, who sat on his pair of false teeth. Said he with a start, "Oh Lord, bless my heart, I've bitten myself underneath." That's a fun poem called a limerick, and that's today's topic on writing poetry with Mr. Reynolds. Today we're talking about limericks. That one was written by Edward Lear. Here's another one written by Edward Lear. There was an old man with a beard who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." Here's another one called The Young Lady of Niger. There once was a young lady of Niger who smiled as she rode on a tiger. They returned from the ride with the lady inside and a smile on the face of the tiger. A young lady named Bright. There was a young lady named Bright who traveled much faster than light. She started one day in a relative way and returned on the previous night. These types of poems tell a humorous story. They're limericks that have 5 lines. You'll notice that as you listen to their story, they have a character, they have a setting or some feature about that character. They also have a story that they tell. There's a plot or something that goes through that with the 5 lines. You'll notice that there is also a rhyming pattern that goes with it. So if you were listening closely, you might have discovered that the rhyming pattern was A, B, B, A. So lines 1, 2, and 5 rhyme. They have the same ending sound. And line 3 and 4 rhyme. So they have the same ending sounds. You also may have listened to a pattern. Listen to this rhythm or cadence. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. So the first one has that 3. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. So you'll notice that lines 3 and 4 are shorter, whereas lines 1, 2, and 5 have a little bit longer cadence to them. And they all kind of flow in that particular way when you're thinking about the types of poems that make up a limerick. Here's another one that's by Gillette Burgess. I'd rather have fingers than toes. I'd rather have eyes than a nose. And as for my hair, I'm glad it's all there. I'd be awfully sad when it goes. And so you have that rhythm and the rhyme that's going to go in with this particular one. Now sometimes you can get excited about a play on words in there. And so in this one, a canner is somebody who works in a factory that cans food, okay? And somebody who is canny is somebody who is wise or smart. So here's one called A Canner Exceedingly Canny by Carolyn Wells. A canner, exceedingly canny, one morning remarked to his granny, "A canner can anything that he can, but a canner can't can a can he?" And so it has that humorous appeal of a ridiculous type of a question, yet in the story, it does have some sort of a logic to it as well. So I want you to try to think through writing some of those. I did several years ago. I wrote one that went like this. It said, "Once there was a fat man who tried to be like Batman. He tried to fly up in the sky, and now he is a flat man." Here's another one that I've just written this morning, a couple of ideas as I was thinking through them. There once was a bird in the nest who wanted to fly like the rest. So he built a slingshot, but then he forgot his shell's not a helpful life vest. So here was this bird who was wearing his eggshell. That's not going to help him to fly very well. Here's another example using nature. There once was a cloud in the sky who was sad, so it started to cry. All the ground turned to mud, and it began to flood. We couldn't wait for that cloud to pass by. Here's another one. There once was an ant in the ground who had piled the dirt to a mound. Then it waited a minute for me to step in it. Now I have bites all around. And here's one about an RC car. There once was an RC car who dreamed of traveling to Lamar, but the battery charge wasn't that large, so he didn't make it that far. And so if you noticed in the stories, the first two lines really kind of introduce the character or the object or whatever it is that you're writing about. And that second line just gives more information about it. The second and third really tell the story. The third and fourth really tell the story of what's happening. Maybe it's the trouble or what happened because of a certain thing. And then that final line wraps it all up and it relates everything into whatever the outcome is. So it becomes that resolution of the story. So the beginning, it does still have that introduction. There is a little bit of a body in there, and then a conclusion so that it sounds like your story is finished. Here's another one, just to kind of get the idea of introducing the character and then introducing something about that character, and then what happens in the third and fourth line, and then the result or the resolution. This one says, there is a young lady whose nose continually prospers and grows. When it grew out of sight, she exclaimed in a fright, "Oh, farewell to the end of my nose." And so hopefully you can think about those poems as telling little stories that are humorous. Now it's your turn to try writing a limerick. Perhaps you have an idea of something to write already. Remember, it could be any object, any person, any place. You could even make up the place. Or if you really want to look for an interesting name, look at a map or an atlas and try to find something that sounds like a place that you've never heard of before. And so it could be, there was a slug from Calloo. Or you could use, there was a man whose feet. Or there once was a nose with snot. There once was a barber. Nope, actually I was thinking baker. There once was a baker whose cakes. Or there was an old shoe in the closet. Or there was a young plant in the garden. There was an old squirrel in a tree. There once was a web full of spiders. There was a silly old hog. There once was a frog in my pocket. So hopefully you've been inspired by some of those to create your own limericks. I hope you have fun with them. They're a lot of fun. And don't forget, once you write and create your own limericks, share them with us so that we can enjoy them as well. Thank you, and have fun writing.